It's a new week, it's a new month, which apparently means we have to answer a brand new question. Is it game over for MicroStrategy? Or I guess it's technically named strategy, but you know what I'm talking about. Year to date, it's down roughly 45%. From the all-time high, it's down about 69%. And if you're just looking at the market cap value, well, not too long ago, it was worth about $75 billion more. And now that crypto's starting to take a hit, we're really seeing MSTR get absolutely goosed. Now, before we get into all the fun stuff, if you're watching this because you trade MSTR or if really, God forbid, you're invested in MSTR, I understand how this video could rub you the wrong way, and I am sorry for that. I am not laughing in your face. I'm not happy that you're losing money. I'm a crypto enthusiast myself. I have a lot of crypto, and on days like this, on weeks like this, I also feel the pain. But in this video, as you're quickly going to find out, I am not against crypto. I just think there's a better way to get exposure to crypto rather than picking MSTR. So please don't take any offense to anything I have to say. We're just trying to get into the nitty-gritty math because we're financial nerds trying to make a little bit of money in the world's largest casino. So I hope that makes sense. And of course, at the end, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you think that there's something maybe I'm just missing, let me know in a comment below, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with all of you. And of course, while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. All that stuff really helps me out and gets this video in front of other people who might be interested. With all that being said, let's roll the tape. So as I've already said, it's a brand new week and it's a brand new month, which means we have a brand new host of problems. So when the market officially closed today, Monday, December the 1st, here was the headline. Dow falls 400 points, snaps a 5-day win streak as crypto slide dents the sentiment. So overall, it was kind of a whatever day. The S&P 500 lost 0.5%. We're right at that downsloping trend line. We do have a downside gap fill, just so you know. If you look at the Nasdaq, pretty much the same situation. It did have a slight red day, losing 0.36%. There is still a downside gap fill, but when you look at NDX, there's also an upside gap fill. So really interesting question is which one is going to get hurt first? And then as that headline was chatting about, Bitcoin getting rocked. As I'm filming this, currently trading just below 86,000, which means from the all-time high to now, it is down about 32%. And as we're here chatting, the year-to-date gains is a loss of 8.5%, obviously underperforming the overall market. So with all of that craziness in the day, very quickly, shout out to everyone in the Goonie Trading Discord. We had a good day. Piper ended up firing right before the end of the stream around 11 a.m. The minimum unit size was $364 for this trade. It ended up returning 36. It was a put credit spread play. Actually ended up paying, I took mine off, looks like 147, so I got in at 10.53, sold it at 70 each, bought it back at 5. So I got in just before 11, got out just before 2, and that was a nice gain of $650, which, if you like that sizing, if you agree with that trade, would have paid for an entire year of you being in the Goonie Trading Discord. So once again, I'm just doing this to show you that, hey, there's real-time trades, real-time call-outs, and you could play it how you like, but obviously the Goonie Discord ate today. If you want to check it out, complete month free for you on the description of the video. So even though things were choppy and frothy in the equities market, we should talk about the larger bearish sentiment currently going on in the world of crypto. Bitcoin and Ether fall sharply as crypto sell-off resumes. Looking at the whole crypto sphere on a one-day period, according to Crypto Bubbles, there was a sea of red. Crypto liquidation surged to $900 million. We're talking just below $1 billion in a 24-hour period, obviously being led down by Bitcoin itself, but the whole sphere getting absolutely clapped. So the first question is, why in the world is this happening? Well, obviously, not to be facetious, but the answer is people are choosing to buy and sell the asset or the assets at a lower and lower price. As to why they're doing it, it's not really the best explanation. Some people are pointing to the fact that the Japanese 10-year yen is spiking, and this has a lot to do with the yen carry trade and really just the overall comfortability of the system. And people have been accurately pointing out how this is the highest level we've been at since the 2008 financial crisis. So that's not necessarily making people feel the best, and maybe you buy that explanation, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I think there's something interesting going on, and it really goes by the name of MSTR. From its all-time high, it's down around 70%. It's really getting beat up, 69%, LOL. Year to date is down 44%. So in terms of the sell-off, it's actually kind of outpacing the sell-off in Bitcoin, which is maybe part of the problem. But what's really crazy is when you look at it, you're gonna realize that the market cap is 49 billion. Please remember that number. That's gonna be very important. But also for those of you just doing the reverse math, that means that this company's lost about 70 to $75 billion in market cap. And unfortunately, it seems like recently it's doing nothing but accelerating. Obviously, that dollar value loss is pretty eye-opening, but what I'm about to show you, well, your jaw is going to be on the ground. This is absolutely insane. MicroStrategy's market cap is now worth $10 billion less than their Bitcoin holdings. As in, what the company owns as an asset at one point in the trading session today, the entire market cap of the company was less than that. Imagine if a company just had US dollars as an asset of the company, and for some reason, the market cap was trading less than that. Doesn't necessarily make sense. You would say that it's fundamentally undervalued, and obviously I'm using USD as an example, but obviously Bitcoin's a very liquid product, so you understand what's going on here. That in itself is crazy. MicroStrategy is now down 12% today and 57% since October 6th. This puts the company's market cap at 45 billion. Meanwhile, MicroStrategy holds 650,000 Bitcoin worth $55 billion. In other words, MicroStrategy market cap is now trading $10 billion below the value of their Bitcoin holdings. Like I said, by definition, fundamentally undervalued. Now, where it starts to get really crazy is when you consider the Bitcoin holdings, the company's debt, and then also their cash on hand, you actually get 48.4 billion, but then the market cap, once again, at one point today in the intraday session, dipped below that, $45 billion. That's a $3 billion discount right there. So on the surface level, what in the world does this tell you? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The market is pricing in an extreme amount of risk. That's what happens when you trade below your quote unquote fundamental value. As to why this is happening now, yes, of course, there's a lot of pressure on Bitcoin as it's going down. And we know that obviously MSTR has a lot of Bitcoin in a leveraged manner on their balance sheet. But then why this weekend? Bitcoin's been taking a hit. So like why specifically right now? Well, because of this. Over the weekend, the CEO started to allude to the fact that they might sell some of their Bitcoin. We can sell Bitcoin, and we would sell Bitcoin if we needed to fund our dividend payments below the 1xM NAV. On top of that, he added that it would be a last resort strategy, aka MicroStrategy, which has 56 billion in Bitcoin stockpile, has seen its MNAV tumble to 1.19 according to their own website. As soon as that conversation was made public, we actually saw a spike in Poly market for the odds of MicroStrategy selling their Bitcoin by June 30th of 2026. You can see right before it, not much, around 18%. At one point, it did spike up to 41, and as I'm filming this, it's roughly around a 1 in 3 shot, around 31% chance. So that in itself isn't necessarily a dagger, but it obviously doesn't look good when the previous CEO, Michael Saylor himself, basically said, never sell your Bitcoin ever. And then people threw the gas onto the fire today when we found out MSTR announces the formation of a 1.44 billion USD reserve and an increase of its Bitcoin reserve to 650,000. So basically continuing to leverage their already leveraged bet in the world of Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin's going down. And right away, as you would probably imagine, people who are specifically against Saylor or Bitcoin as a whole just jumped all over this. Today is the beginning of the end of MSTR. Saylor was forced to sell stock, not to buy Bitcoin, but to buy US dollars merely to fund MSTR's interest and dividend obligations. The stock is broken, the business model is a fraud, and Saylor is the biggest con man on Wall Street. Now, I want to make it clear. I don't agree with this statement from Peter Schiff. I think there's some things that are just factually wrong. For example, if you even just look at the dividend obligations part, we already know that Saylor said multiple times, the way that these debt covenants are written, well, they can choose to actually just stop paying them. They don't have to pay them. So even though it's technically a dividend obligation, they can make it so it's not an obligation. And that's just one thing here. We could spend an entire video breaking this down of why I don't agree with it. I'm just trying to illustrate the point that there was quite a bit of negative sentiment going into this, and then obviously we got even more negative sentiment. Here's the main thing that I want to discuss with all of you. It blows my mind that in the modern market era, anyone is paying attention or involved with MSTR in any manner. And I support Bitcoin. This is not an anti-Bitcoin rant. It's more of, hey, you have better opportunities to get better exposure to Bitcoin itself. When you're looking at MSTR, it's not a simple one-to-one vehicle of just holding Bitcoin. That's not how it works. By definition, it is leverage. When you consider the convertible notes, their corporate loans, their at-the-market offerings, it is a leverage holding for Bitcoin. And remember, leverage cuts both ways. When everything is good, it's amazing, and you're getting those leverage returns. However, when the market turns sour, well, you're not only taking a hit, you are taking a leveraged hit. And in the particular case of MSTR, when Bitcoin goes down, well, strategy's collateral, Bitcoin itself, is starting to lose value. From there, it becomes more difficult to service your existing debt. And last but not least, when vibes are low, when sentiment takes a serious turn, it's very, very difficult to get new capital. Now, if you're not exactly following what I'm saying, don't worry about it. The main TLDR is this. When you have a leveraged asset based on Bitcoin, such as MSTR, when Bitcoin's going up, when money is cheap and vibes are high, yes, it's probably going to outpace Bitcoin itself. However, leverage does cut both ways. When sentiment turns, when Bitcoin prices start to fall, all of a sudden, MSTR doesn't take a one-to-one hit, it takes a bigger hit, and all of a sudden, that can turn into a snowball effect where the really bad gets even worse, and that's exactly what we're seeing in MSTR right now. So if you're watching this and you're involved in MSTR in any capacity, my question is why? I understand a couple years ago when there was no exposure in the equities market to Bitcoin and definitely no leverage exposure, but now that we have all these ETFs such as IBIT, and from there you even have leveraged ETFs, my question is what is the point? Because all these ETFs, they're exactly that. It's either Bitcoin or leveraged Bitcoin, but when it comes to strategy, you have to wonder about all these other business complications such as the convertible notes, the debt servicing, the at-the-market offerings. When you ask me, there's just far too much complication. If you want to play Bitcoin, go play Bitcoin. My favorite way to get Bitcoin is honestly just on my wallet, but if you would rather play it through the equities market, well, have at it. My question is, why MSTR? Out of the entire world of crypto, if you want exposure to Bitcoin, it almost seems as if this is your worst opportunity and your worst exposure to it. You could either get Bitcoin yourself, you could go get a Bitcoin ETF, or if you want to be a degenerate about it, you could get a leveraged Bitcoin ETF. But all of those are still seemingly better than MSTR because it has other business complications that I think that the average investor or trader doesn't really fully appreciate. And unfortunately, we're getting to the situation where MSTR's experiment might negatively impact all of us, even if you're not involved, because if it comes unwound, well, don't forget, they have 650,000 Bitcoin. So for one reason or another, and I'm not saying that this is likely, but if they have to sell a big chunk of it, well, the Bitcoin market is liquid, but it's not that liquid. And then all of a sudden you could have a big hit to price, once again, impacting all of us. So as to the question, is it game over for strategy? Is it game over for MSTR? Obviously, I'm not clairvoyant. I can't tell you the future. I don't think things are looking good, but my real answer is, why would I care when I have better exposure to Bitcoin? So once again, to make this very, very clear, if you like Bitcoin in the way I do, I'm still trying to, figure out the answer to why do people care about MSTR when there's better ways to get exposure? Obviously, these are my own thoughts and opinions, and I would love to hear from you in a comment below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Or maybe I'm overlooking something? Once again, I would love to hear from all of you in a comment below. I hope you had a great holiday. I appreciate all the good vibes. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.